Okay. Uh, Today we'll discuss on cerebrovascular disorders. My focus is first we'll start with memory and amnesia. This is bit of complicated topic, and we need to understand the basics. So first I'll discuss something what is memory, and then later on we'll go to what is amnesia. Hmm? Then we'll start the diseases connected to particular locations of the brain, how they manifest. Hmm? Now, what is memory? Memory can be divided into implicit and explicit memory. Hmm? Voice is clear now? If there is any disturbance in the voice, let me know. Huh? Students,
Okay,
hello?
sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. You have to tell me if there is a problem. Huh? Implicit, also known as procedural memory. This is a implicit memory and this is a explicit memory. There are two types of memories. So implicit memory is also a procedural memory. Now it is a most like automatic memory. Here there is a lot of no much uh, retrieval techniques. All those things are not there. It is a automatically people do it like walking, riding bikes, swimming, anything the students are most habituated. So not only the person is most habituated. Some things fall under this implicit memory. Now we have got another memory which is also known as explicit memory or declarative memory. Hmm? This is retaining the facts and by unconscious effort is there. This is more like a subconscious, but this is conscious effort is there, and this needs focus. So this doesn't need focus, whereas this needs focus. So we'll go to the next slide. Now we'll go more deep on the declarative memories. Hmm? Declarative memories are what is explicit? Explicit memories. Huh? Declarative memories has got stages. How a memory is prepared. It starts on stage one, that is encoding stage. Then there is a stage two that is called consolidation stage. Then there is a stage called storage, storage, storage. Then last one is retrieval, retrieval stage. There are retrieval stage. There are the four stages of memory now. Now we'll discuss each one. The first stage. The first stage is basically getting inside the body. Like what is it? Feeling the senses. That is size, texture, sweetness, color, such things. Here, the it is basically perception occurs at encoding stage. And when the perception occurs, there is in the next stage. It is this happens. Perception occurs at the lower level of prefrontal cortex. And from this stage, the signals are then they go into consolidation stage. Here it happens inside the hippocampus. In this stage, the encoded information is linked to existing memories. So whatever the existing memories are there, they get linked. Whatever linking has to be required, they get linked. In this memory, thus the memory becomes more solidified and becomes by thus it becomes easy to recall. So basically, it is a way the story it forms a consolidation phase where things are taken and solidified, and it formed in such a way that it becomes easy to recall. Such an information is created from consolidation phase. This is a whatever that comes here. They get organized. In fact, then it is stored at the third stage, that is in the storage inside the cortex. It is cortex. Spelling is wrong here. Cortex, inside the cortex, all over the cortex it's stored. In this, the unimportant part of the information is edited out and is removed here, and it is stored. Whatever is unimportant, again it is removed in this stage. And the last stage is a retrieval stage, and this is the stage where how you recall, basically the way to recall. This is the last stage. Here it is at the level of prefrontal cortex, and all the cortex and hippocampus. All these things are used for retrieval technique. So during each retrieval, the brain undergoes all the previous stages and over again and again. That means all these three stages are redone. So it is redone. So you mean to say that there is a the previous stage of consolidation, storage, there is all this redone, and the memory becomes more and more refined. The more you retrieve the information from the memory, your memory becomes stronger and more meaningful, more solidified. That's why retrieving, repeated remembering. The more you try to remember things, you can recall them better. That is because whenever you trial, these things happen again and again. So the number of times the memory is retrieved, the more likely that you can able to remember the facts. The more times you try to recall, the more better you can remember it. And retrieval procedure protects the memories from getting lost. Yeah, you can understand that. That means whatever you read yesterday, if you try to retrieve it, huh, before you sleep or next day, something like that, you can, the chances of forgetting are less. That's what. Huh? Oldest memories or retrieved memories are more resilient to be lost, because the more, because oldest memories, what you would have done is you could have retrieved it many times. So these memories become more resilient to be lost because of that. The more times the memory has been retrieved, more likely that memory is not lost. That's what this retrieval techniques helps you. These are the 4 stages of memory. Now we'll go to amnesia. My voice is loud and clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there is any problem, let me know. Huh? Because I may not be able to see the chat box, you have to tell me. Otherwise, call the phone number if there is any problem still. Okay. Hmm? With amnesia, any of the 4 stages could be affected. The amnesia, in this, any of the 4 stages are affected. The 2 types, antegrade and retrograde. There are 2 types, antegrade and retrograde. Which movie is the antegrade amnesia? Can anybody tell me this? What is this? Ghazni. Have you seen this Ghazni movie? Huh? Amir Khan's
Yes, sir.
Ghazni movie, I'm asking, man. Huh?
Yes, sir.
He will be suffering from antegrade memory. Memory, na? He can't remember more than 50 minutes. He'll just forget it. Huh? That is because he'll be having suffering from this antegrade amnesia. Damage to that what the story tells. Huh? Now, antegrade amnesia is a problem with encoding and consolidation stage. So here the stored, whatever the stored and which have been retrieving, those will be kept intact. That movie has got some difficult things to be there, but yeah, this is a more likely better to he fits into this. He'll not be able to learn new things. Nah? He'll forget whatever he has done. He fits better here, but even some movie shows this part also there for sake of drama. Anyway, that is live. So antegrade memory, the person will not be able to learn new memories. So whatever he has done in the morning, from where he has come, like those things, he'll not be see, or from where they have come, patient has come, he'll not be what he spoke or ate, those things he'll not be able to, whom with whom he spoke in the morning, what he ate, such things he cannot remember. This is antegrade memory, and the disease involves encoding and consolidating stage of memory. Now there is one more, that is a retrograde memory, which is more commonly seen. That is, it is a problem with storage and retrieval. The problem is in the storage. More common damage is in the cortex, or maybe in the hippocampus or frontal cortex. This is the common etiology. And forgets important people in their life. They may forget important people. See, if you got a old dementia patient, you ask somebody from the home, ask him who is he, he'll not able to tell. For son, he'll not recognize his own son or a grandson, something like that can happen. And these people will create false memories, confabulation, because old they'll keep false memories. This is retrograde amnesia. Causes of both antegrade and retrograde amnesia. What are the causes? Acute, it could be because of trauma, infections. Chronic could be tumors, neurodegenerative diseases like dementia, vitamin B12 and thiamine. And after giving electroconvulsive therapy for depression, they give a psychiatrist electroconvulsive therapy they can. And benzodiazepines also can cause amnesia. These are the causes of amnesia. Now causes for both antegrade and retrograde amnesia continue same thing. Now we'll go to psychological amnesia. There is an entity called psychological amnesia, or psychological amnesia leads to retrograde amnesia. And these people is a kind of retrograde amnesia where they got dissociative amnesia here. What they dissociative means, a patient who has suffered as trauma, psychological trauma, he will forget that trauma sometimes completely. He will not be able to remember what has happened to him. Probably this is a evolutionary defense mechanism. Hmm? Huh? Defense mechanism. Forgetting the trauma itself. A sort of a boon for him that he'll not be able to remember the whatever trauma has happened. So that is the way of uh, psychological amnesia can happen. And it could be forgetting specific event target. That event only will not forget. Or there could be complete wiping of decades, like 1 year, 10 years, you would have forgotten. In the psychological amnesia, following a psychological trauma, that event they would forget, or there could be years together loss of memory. Psychological trauma. You have seen such movies, na? Following some trauma, psychological trauma, the hero or that girl, they will forget what has for years together, something like that. It could be like our Dushyanta and Shakuntala, if you remember. Shakuntala, Dushanta forgets all about Shakuntala suddenly, and you will not remembering. That sort of a dissociative amnesia. Dissociative amnesia. You can think to just mnemonic. That story doesn't give any history of trauma to Dushanta, but you will forget like that. Even Arjuna would forget that Babruwan's mother. All those mythological stories are there where they forget. So those things are you can call some trauma would have happened in that person, that they'll forget some part of their life. That could be like that, wiping out. And there is something called a dissociative fugue. They will run away from that place. Arjuna would run away to Manipur and go and stay there, and he will go and be there in Nagaloka for some time, and then he'll come back. That is all they say, the curse of Krishna and all that. But you remember, dissociative fugue means the person will run away following the trauma, and he'll forget many things, like that, from home, community, all that. Arjuna would have been there, living there now for a long time, following that. He will go and stay in Manipur, I believe. Somebody is trying to join. Let me see. Okay. Any one of you? How many of you know the story of Babruwana? Huh? How many of you know the story of Babruwana? Okay. Is my voice clear? Students?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyway, you got these points of psychological amnesia, na?
Yes, sir.
Diagnosis. Now just don't try to this bit. Diagnose, how to diagnose. You have to rule out other causes basically. Well, for the amnesia you are getting retrograde, this is the retrograde amnesia. This you have to rule out whether patient has taken some drugs or all that, and if there is only a psychological trauma that could explain the cause of his amnesia, then it is psychological amnesia. And one thing, memory loss should not occur exclusively during dissociative fugue. It can even have after the dissociative fugue also there could be still memory loss. That doesn't fit into those stories, but those heroes, both Dushyanta and Arjuna, they remember. Fine. Diagnosis of amnesia now. How to diagnose amnesia? You have to take, definitely you will have to depend on the history given from the friends and family. You will have to do the test for nutrition deficiency. You see, look for any infections and imaging, MRI and CT. They are the way to diagnose amnesia. And management. What are these marks on this Ghajini movie? You can see he has written his girlfriend's name, villain's
Yeah,
name.
their previous history, sir. Previous history to recognize.
Yeah, that's the treatment, in fact. And this how, see, the psychological treatment here, it includes this. You can nowadays you can use mobile phones. Although this idiot will be owning, he'll be chairman of what is it, Aircel mobile industry. Still, he'll write on his body. He could have used simple mobile phone to solve it. Am I correct? He would have kept alarms, reminders, storing pictures, videos, and all those things. He
Yes,
could
sir.
have done the same thing rather than struggling with all these things on the body. Just to show off, movie. Huh? Am I
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm giving you mnemonic that you should remember. He'll be owner of some mobile industry only, na? Huh? He can't afford on mobile to store his information. That is the bad part of it. Hmm. Uh, Hello? Management of amnesia. Often temporary. Sometimes this amnesia is temporary, they get recovered by themselves only. Occupational cognitive therapy teaches people how to organize, store the information. Definitely not like this. Huh? You try to use these things today. Memories and alarms and all these things. Allow them to follow these things. Okay. Hmm? For dissociative amnesia, give psychotherapy, psychiatric illness. Hmm? Now we'll go to localization, lesions and localization. Patient with the injury of paracentral lobule has all of the following except gait apraxia, urinary incontinence, saddle anesthesia, fecal incontinence.
So it's saddle anesthesia, sir.
Yeah, correct. So the paracentral lobule,
Micturition and fecal
yeah,
reflexes
yeah,
controlled by
these two
paracentral.
incontinence does happen with the paracentral lobule lesions. Gait are also involved because you should remember
Motor.
where is the paracentral lobule? This is a coronal section I'm showing.
Yes, sir. In cross
Here
section,
somewhere it
like
comes.
medial part, sir.
Here, paracentral. I'll show the images. Paracentral lobule. This part, here there is a lower limb, abdomen and perineum abdomen here, thorax here, then hand here, then face here. Okay, that's how it is arranged. Okay, that's the reason. Gait is involved, urinary, fecal, but saddle. Where you get saddle anesthesia? I discussed about it. Saddle anesthesia. So spinal cord disease.
Sensory, sir.
Where? Conus medullaris. What is conus medullaris lesion? Hmm?
Yes, sir.
Forgot.
Terminal part of the spinal cord, like.
Yeah, involvement of terminal cord or spinal cord can also produce a saddle anesthesia. Why? Hmm? Because the terminal part of the spinal cord contains all the sacral fibers. Sacral fibers. There is a what is conus medullaris? Spinal cord comes here. The terminal part of the spinal cord is bit bulkier. Bit bulkier. So it contains all sacral fibers. All these things are condensed here. Then what comes down? These fibers come down and they travel down. Then they exit the spinal cord, spinal canal. What? Hello? Hello? Is my voice
No problem.
clear?
No problem, sir.
Okay. So here, spina bifida means conus medullaris is this. When there is involvement, they can develop saddle anesthesia because sacral fibers come here only. Okay. I'll come to this. Yeah, we'll show this the diagram here. The new students, there are these are spinal cord diseases. I have taken a class. You can go and check the recorded classes. All these spinal cord diseases, all that I have taken in previous classes. You just see that it is there uploaded in both YouTube channel. Also, you can access the same thing from classroom there. Okay. Now this is the one which is colored is a paracentral lobule. It is the medial of cerebrum, medial part. Lateral is because this is a what is this? What is this?
Corpuscle.
Yeah.
Artificialism.
Yeah, corpus callosum. This is splenium. This is geno. You have to remember this. Huh? Geno. This is splenium. Posterior part. Remember this. This is geno is anterior part. Posterior part is splenium of corpus callosum. Now we'll come discuss on paracentral lobule. You saw this diagram. This one only we'll see here now. This is located on the medial surface of the cerebral cortex. The anterior portion is a part of the frontal lobe. That is supplementary motor area. See, this is a central sulcus is there here. Yeah, this is the central sulcus. You can see central sulcus here. What is this?
Yes,
This
sir.
is central sulcus. This is anterior. This is a posterior part. This is motor area. This is sensory part. Both are there. Posterior portion is a parietal lobule. It is somatosensory. So supplementary motor area and somatosensory, they are involved here. That is a paracentral lobule contains both motor and sensory. You have to remember that. Okay. Function of paracentral lobule: motor and sensory innervations of the contralateral lower extremity. So motor and sensory involvement of the innervations of the contralateral side of the this one, and regulation of the functions of defecation and maturation. Affection of this leads to incontinence, not retention. Okay, remember this. Okay. So damage to the paracentral lobule leads to incontinence, not retention. Remember that. They can twist MCQ on this for you people that confuse you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And blood supply is anticirculatory. Damage to the paracentral lobule occurs from occlusion of that artery, same which I told you just now, contralateral lower limb muscle weakness, and urinary and defecation also issues. Both fecal incontinence. Sorry, I have not written that. You remember that. Fecal incontinence is also there. Now, all of the following are the features of temporal lobe lesions. What is the temporal lobe? This one is temporal lobe.
Yes.
This is there, na? Here. This is
Broca,
parietal.
sir.
This is the frontal. This is a temporal lobe here. Lesion of this. There is a medial, and of course on that side there is a lateral. Medial part of temporal lobe and hippocampus, all these things. Medial part, temporal lobe, is connected with the memory. Remember this. Medial part. Lateral part of the temporal lobe is connected with aphasia. That those things.
Yes, sir. Brocas.
Aphasia and all those things come on the lateral aspect. Because those questions will come. That's what I'm telling you. All of the following are the features of temporal lobe lesions, except Wernicke's aphasia. Yes, Wernicke's
Yes.
area. Oh, sorry, here I'll show it.
Hemi-neglect, sir.
Yeah, hemineglect comes from parietal lobe.
Yes.
So this is a temporal lobe. Wernicke's area is
Lateral
here
part.
at this angle. This one. Contralateral homonymous superior quadranapsia. I will show the optic tract and all that. Why it is the quadrant? What is quadrantonapsia? Superior. Superior quadrant of the contralateral side. There is a anopia. Sorry, not amnesia. Anopia. Loss of vision in that quadrant. So if you, these are the visual fields of both eyes. So if for example this temporal lobe is involved, this temporal lobe is involved, so this quadrant is, these two quadrants are will lose vision. Lost vision. Less 3 are okay. That's what this says. Contralateral homonymous superior quadrantanopia. Temporal lobe. And if side this side parietal lobe is involved, what you would expect? What? Parietal means inferior quadrant here. This will go into damage. This. No, this will go. Similarly, here means opposite like that. That's what this one. And patients can have auditory hallucinations and hemi-neglect. Hemi-neglect is a feature of parietal lobe. Parietal lobe. Huh? What is hemi-neglect? Loss of awareness of the part of the body. One half of the body. Patients will sometimes say, "Why you have brought me? I don't have any problem." He would have got hemiplegia weakness on that side. Still, he will deny that he has no weakness. Like he'll complain, "I have no weakness. Why you have brought me?" Like that. That is hemi-neglect they can have. Hmm? I discussed in previous class this hemi-neglect and all that. You can check those videos. Huh? Temporal lobe lesions. So contralateral homonymous superior quadrantonopia. True. Complex hallucinations of smell and taste. Huh? These are the common things. Huh? Now, if it is bilateral temporal, both the temporal lobes are involved, then there is a deafness. Huh? This is cortical deafness. Cortical deafness can be there. There could be apathy if it is bilateral. Deafness happens only if it is bilateral. Unilateral doesn't cause deafness. Only thing is contralaterally he will not be able to localize the sound. Unilateral temporal lobe lesions. Unilateral temporal lobe lesions. Patient will not be able to localize contralateral sounds from where they're coming. But he can hear. That is unilateral. Bilateral lesions means there could be deafness. Because auditory things are bilateral represented. Only localization is the issue when there is unilateral temporal lobe damage. Localization problem. So there could be apathy and deafness. Impaired learning and memory. Memory, why? Because medial part of temporal lobe is concerned with memory. So, and bilateral lesions can happen because of thiamine deficiency and Kluver-Bucky syndrome. Here it is their sexual behaviors and abnormal sexual behaviors, especially suffering from Kluver-Bucky syndrome, could be due to temporal lobe lesions. Lesions of the medial temporal lobe produce. Now I'm specifically asking medial temporal lobe may produce what? I told you memory na.
Auditory amnesia and anterograde amnesia.
Visual?
Visual also. Visual, maybe sir. Yes sir.
What is visual amnesia? Can you tell me what is visual amnesia, auditory amnesia, antegrader discuss. Auditory amnesia is actually word deafness. For what is visual amnesia?
Sir,
Patient, if
loss
you show
of
the thing, he will not
memory.
be able to
That is
recognize.
that he saw past in past sir.
Yeah. So we'll come to that slowly. Now we'll come. I'll discuss that visual amnesia in detail. Temporal lobe dominant and non-dominant if it is. So in dominant hemisphere, there will be, as you know, that aphasia, that is Wernicke's aphasia, and the dyslexia will be there. Dyslexia is on the what side? Dominant side. Okay. Dysgraphia is on the non-dominant side. I have written here. Visual amnesia. Impaired or non-verbal. Yeah, it is called something like non-verbal memory amnesia. On non-dominant, it is verbal amnesia. Because there is a non-verbal amnesia happens with the non-dominant side lesions and verbal amnesia on the dominant side, impaired verbal memory, word agnosia and word deafness. They can happen. What is prosopagnosia? I'll discuss all these things. Next slides, they are there. What is this? The inability to recognize face. Prosopagnosia. It is inability to recognize face. Facebook is this. Not that it is against reverse like that, something like that. Apraxia. Now we'll discuss what is apraxia. It is a motor disorder. Apraxia is a motor disorder. Damage to the dominant, usually left hemisphere of the brain, will produce apraxia. Typically in the frontal and parietal lobes. That is a place of damage, apraxia. difficulty with the motor planning and performing tasks. Patient will have difficulty in motor planning and performing tasks. Comprehension is intact. You can check apraxia only if the comprehension is intact. If it is associated with aphasia and all those things, you can't check. Even if there is a weakness, also you can't check actually. Intent to perform task should be there. Patient should have intent. If he is not willing, apathic, all those things you can't check apraxia. Causes are stroke, trauma, and neurodegenerative diseases. Now, types of apraxia. Apraxia of speech. Here, muscles involving the speech are affected, although the power is normal. Muscles, the patient cannot speak because of apraxia of speech. And here, and there is one more type is buccofacial and ocofacial, orofacial. Here, facial movements are affected. And constructional apraxia, inability to draw, construct, copy simple configurations. If you ask him to draw something, he can't. That is there. Then there is the gait apraxia that you can understand, inability to walk, although with the normal power. Then there is a called as ideational conceptual apraxia, inability to conceptualize task. Whatever you tell him, he cannot, or he cannot imagine himself also. Conceptualize, he can't understand. Task. He will incorrect order. If you ask him to wear, he may wear shoes and try to wear socks above that. That is a good example. Like conceptual apraxia, incorrect order will be there. In a impaired ability to complete multi-step actions. Yeah, here it says, see, multi-step. Wear shoes first, then try to wear socks later. Like that. These are then other type are ideomotor apraxia, inability to plan or complete motor actions that rely on general knowledge. He cannot. If you ask him to go and get something, he cannot. If it requires a general knowledge, he can't do it. Limb kinetic apraxia, inability to perform precise voluntary movements of extremities, saying hello while tying shoes. Sometimes you'll be tying your shoes and somebody enters your house, you will just say hello. Both you can do simultaneously. If the patient has got this disease, then he can't do this multitasking. That is limb kinetic apraxia is there. The oculomotor apraxia, defect in what are saccadic movements? What do you mean by saccadic movements? Saccadic are fast fixing. If see some object is moving, if suddenly you can fix your eyeballs on that. Sudden fast moving of the eyeballs to fix on the moving object. That is saccadic movement. Gaze actually. Gaze, fast, saccadic. Suddenly both eyeballs of yours you can fix on the fast moving target. That is saccadic movement. In oculomotor apraxia, they can't do that. They'll have problems here. These are types of apraxia. And we'll come to visual amnesia. Damage to the stored visual information associated with the retrograde amnesia. Loss of posterior neocortex rather than damage to the medial temporal cortex. Here, the damage is where medial, actually the neocortex, then the medial, more towards neocortex here, visual amnesia. Actually, the question, there is a different answer there, but what is the question here? We'll come back. See, visual temporal lobe can also be involved, but it is a problem more with the visual cortex. Loss of posterior neocortex rather than the damage to medial surface of temporal cortex. Here, more advanced it is. See, because there is damage to the stored visual information, if we give object, he cannot recognize that. In the right-handed person, left parietal lobe injury may be associated with the following, except what happens to the right-handed person? Hello? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Inferior quadratic anopsia.
In a right-handed person, yeah. In a right-handed person, left parietal lobe. So parietal lobe is upper part. So he will not have lower vision. So inferior quadratic anopsia can happen. Huh? See, brain, upper part of the brain, this is temporal lobe. Here, if this is damaged, they can't see this. Inferior quadrant is there, not damaged. Temporal lobe means this will go. Huh? Hmm? So this is a correct answer actually. It not accept. Now in right-handed person, the left parietal lobe injury, it is a left parietal lobe. That means a dominant hemisphere. So dominant hemisphere, the patient will have language, mathematics. So I had told you this, the dominant hemisphere, parietal lobe is concerned with what? Dominant spheres. What they contain? Mathematics and language subjects are on the dominant side. Even logic, all the geography, apraxia, social science, emotional behaviors are on the non-dominant side. You remember, I told you, na? So this is a left parietal lobe with maybe associated with the following. That means aphasia or calculia. This is the language, this is the mathematics. Urinary incontinence. What happened? Where do you get urinary incontinence? It is on the medial
Temporal.
part. Medial part.
Paracentral.
Actually, medial
Paracentral.
part will have, but left parietal lobe. These three things are fine, but this is actually paracentral lobule. It is a paracentral lobule. In fact, bilateral isn't it should be unilateral. May not cause that. Fine. Now,
Yes.
where was he? Now we'll come to optic tract. This are some very people are very much fond of asking questions on optic tract. Now these are the two eyeballs. This is a what is this? Lateral. Red color is lateral. Blue color is medial. So the medial fibers from the retina they come here at the optic chiasma in front of the pituitary gland here. There is a pituitary gland here. The medial fibers cross to the opposite side. You remember this. The medial fibers of this eyeball go to the, this is right side, they go to the left side. So the left optic tract, this is optic tract. Optic tract contains what? Lateral fibers of same side and medial fibers of opposite side. So that means to say that when the medial fibers are of this side, they supply this and what? They look at this side. Okay. This optic tract, this optic tract is looking like this. This optic tract is looking like this. Got my point? Hello.
Yes, sir.
So the optic tract on the right side, right optic tract looks at left half of the left side. The right left optic tract looks at the what?
Right.
Opposite side. That is the right side. Okay. This is a field of vision. If you want to say, this is this optic tract is this side, this optic tract this side. All the eyeballs they are placed like this. There is a crossover here because of that. And these fibers again at the level of lateral geniculate body when they reach optic tract, it optic radiation will happen. That is to the parietal lobe you get a optic radiation also and a temporal lobe. So here this parietal lobe here na, they get radiation here and temporal lobe also to come here. Now this will be looking at superiorly, this will be looking at inferiorly. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Temporal lobe we look at this. That's why if you get a right parietal lobe lesion, you get a inferior and inferior left homonium quadroanopia. Right temporal lobe will cause inferior left quadratic anopia. Like that side. Optic nerve. We'll learn something about optic nerve. Second cranial nerve, it is extra cranial will be there. Then it enters the brain at the cranium with the medial cranial fossa. Then optic chiasma I discussed just now. Left optic tract, right optic tract I discussed. Optic tract, lateral genital body, relay system to then located in the thalamus. Yeah, we'll just not bother much about these things. In temporal lobe, this radiation is called as Mayer lobes and all that. So optic radiation, upper and lower are there. So upper goes to parietal, it looks down. The temporal lobe, which is looks up. Remember like that. Same diagram, what I was telling here. Optic lesion and anapsias. Optic chiasma, it causes bitemporal. Yeah. So optic chiasma. So if there is a pituitary gland here, it will compresses here. It will damage the crossing fibers. It will cause what? The what happens? This one, these things are gone. So bitemporal, this field are damaged. Optic chiasma. This field loss is there. Loss is there. So optic chiasma, bitemporal hemianopia is there. Temporal lobe, contralateral homonymous superior quadroanopia. Parietal lobe, contralateral homonymous inferior quadroanopia. All of the following are true about anterior choroidal artery syndrome, except all of the voice is clear now. Hello?
Yes, sir.
All of the following are true about anterior choroidal artery syndrome, except. Tell me. Hemiparesis, hemisensory loss,
Hemiparesis.
homonymous hemianopia, involvement of anterior limb of internal capsule.
Hemiparesis.
Hemiparesis, anterior caudal artery syndrome. Homonymous involvement of anterior limb of internal capsule. See, anterior caudal artery syndrome. We'll discuss about this artery first. Then, what is a anterior caudal artery arises from which artery? Internal carotid artery, supracranial part. See, the ICA comes to the brain. Intracarotid artery comes to the brain, goes into cavernous sinus, comes out at the supracranial part. It gives a anterior caudal artery branch. It is a branch of what? ICA, anterior caudal artery, is a branch of internal carotid artery. You have to remember, they can ask you these questions. And it supplies, see here, posterior internal capsule, not anterior internal capsule here. Here, involvement of anterior limb of internal capsule. It is posterior limb of internal capsule and optic tract, lateral genital body, cerebral peduncles. And of course, these things also perfuse. Thalamus, medial globus pallidus is a caudate place. Basal ganglia, sorry. Basal ganglia, temporal lobe, all this, that's why it suppress. But you should remember this. The answer is lies here. Involvement of the anterior limb is not correct. And one thing now, these patients are lesions of endocaudal artery, they will have hemisensory loss. Usually the internal capsule infarcts caused by lenticulostriate branches of MCA, middle cerebral artery. Middle cerebral artery, how it travels? I discussed middle cerebral artery. From medial to lateral it goes now. Under the what? This. It comes here. From medial to lateral it comes like this. And this is a frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe here. It comes out from medial to lateral here. So here when it is coming like this, it will give deep branches into the brain. It supplies the internal what? Internal capsule there. So that produces hemiparesis only. Whereas when this is there, anterior caudal artery, it produces hemiparesis as well as hemisensory loss, and there is a homonymous hemianopia will be there, but anterior limb is false. It doesn't involve the anterior limb of internal capsule. It is posterior limb of internal capsule. Why it produces the hemianopias? Homonymous because of it supplies what? optic tract here. So when it supplies optic tract, it's not radiation. Optic tract is a one bundle. If it cuts, the opposite side vision is gone. So it causes sorry, it causes what? Opposite vision is gone. Yeah, opposite side vision is gone. One eye, that's left, right tract gone. Left visual field is gone. Like that. Homonymous similar it can cause. Optic lateral generated body also there. See. Cerebral peduncle. Where you get cerebral peduncle? Mid brain. I discussed this actually. So enterocaudal artery has got hemiplegia with hemisensory loss. See, usually all these strokes, it is a motor disease. Thalamic bleeds and enterocaudal artery syndromes, they cause this. Remember this, hemisensory loss. Usually, the most of the strokes don't cause loss of sensation over the upper limb and lower limb. Most of them are motor diseases. Most of them are motor diseases. Anterior caudal artery, see. Anterior caudal artery syndrome causes contralateral hemiplegia, contralateral hemianesthesia, and homonymous hemianopia. That is because of involvement of lateral genital body and optic tract. Which of the following is not a site involved by posterior cerebral artery infarct? These questions are a bit tough, I know, but they are asked. That's why I was discussing. Tell me. At least try guess, na. Pinky Balachandran. Roshan.
Sir.
Take a guess, man. There is no negative marking here. In exams we'll have, but here in the class, there is no negative marking. You get participation, appreciation, whether right or wrong. Why everybody is keeping quiet? I know they are all difficult questions.
Sir, forgot the supply of posterior cerebral artery, sir.
Posterior cerebral artery is a branch of which artery now? Terminal branch of what? Basilar artery, man. It divides, posterior cerebral artery like this. See, vertebral artery comes here. They form a basilar artery. And then again divide into posterior cerebral arteries. Fine. Where I am? Okay. Which of the following is not a site of inward? And this posterior cerebral artery communicates with the Willis circle with the posterior communicating artery, which is a branch of internal carotid artery. So internal carotid artery, from there it gives posterior communicating artery, and anterior communicating artery is a branch of. This was a standard MCQ, anterior cerebral artery. This is the internal cerebral artery, bilateral.
Internal.
Now this intracerebral artery will give raise to anterocerebral artery, and also it will give raise to posterior communicating artery. Anterocerebral artery, it gives anterior communicating artery. Both the sides they'll mix join together. This is a part of the Willis circle. And posterior communicating artery, both sides from intracarotid artery comes back and joins what? Posterior cerebral artery. This is what? This is basilar artery. This is a posterior cerebral artery. Bilaterally. This is posterior communicating artery. This is ICA. This is anterior cerebral artery. Anterior communicating artery. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Confusion still?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, posterior cerebral artery, simple thing, you can answer this anterior cortex. It won't go that much. It is posterior. Anterior cortex is far away from it. It doesn't require detailed anatomy to answer this actually. Midbrain, thalamus, temporal lobe definitely, which are posterior aspects compared to this. So this is the answer actually. All of the following are caused by involvement of the posterior cellular artery except Barrett syndrome, Weber syndrome, Rejan syndrome, Gerstmann syndrome. Hmm. Tell me. Huh? I am showing you the answer now. Huh?
Yes.
Gerstmann syndrome.
Jetman syndrome.
What is Barrett syndrome now? Hmm? What is this syndrome? Now we'll come to this. This answer I want. Dejerine-Roussy syndrome. Thalamic pain. Hmm? Thalamic pain syndrome. I discussed about thalamic pain in the last class. Roshan was you are having some problem with this now. Huh? These
Yes, sir.
all spinal thalamic tracts which come in the spinal cord, they go and relay in thalamus. From there, they project to the cortex. So spinal thalamic tract, or be it the spinocerebral tract, all of them they go and relay in thalamus, sensory part, ascending fibers. I'm not telling descending fibers now. Ascending fibers, which come all sensory, they relay in thalamus. So thalamus is concerned with all spinal tracts. If they are damaged, there can be thalamic pain of the hemi part on the opposite side. They can have this thalamic pain syndrome. That syndrome is called Dejerine-Roussy syndrome, especially hypertensive thalamic bleeds. Huh? Thalamic hemorrhagic stroke, if there is a bleed into the thalamus, they can develop this syndrome. I'll discuss that. Anyway, that slides are there. So, what is Weber syndrome? So, we'll discuss all the syndromes one by one now. Hmm? Now, what Ballant syndrome is a rare thing, of course. They are fond of asking sometimes rare things. Is a due to posterior parietal lobe lesions, characterized by optic ataxia. So the patient will have problem with overreaching the objects, huh? Huh? and arm are lost. He cannot visual guidance overreaching. He cannot. Huh? Ocular apraxia, saccadic eye movement are impaired. Huh? Simultanagnosia. If you cannot pick up, understand individually, he can pursue, but more than one object, if it is given, he can't understand what is it. One, if you give pen, he will say pen. You give rubber and pen, you ask him where is the pen, you can't. Simultanagnosia. These are the signs of balance syndrome. Balance syndrome. Hmm? Ataxia, optic ataxia, that is, he cannot overreaching the objects, he cannot see that. Ocular apraxia, that is saccadic eye movement are lost. Then simultanagnosia is there. These are things which are there in balance syndrome. What is the question? All of the following are caused by posterior cellular artery. Yeah, this is parietal lobe. Huh? Parietal lobe, na? So posterior cellular artery, it can. Gerstmann syndrome. This is due to inferior parietal lobe. Due to lesion in the inferior parietal lobe. Here, dysgraphia and agraphia. What is dysgraphia? Writing problem. Hmm? Hmm? And loss of mathematical or calculator can be there. In Gerstmann syndrome, they can have this. Try to memorize this. They are a bit difficult to remember, but anyway, they are asked. That's why I'm teaching you people. Inability to write, inability to do mathematics, calculator, and he cannot uh, understand whether the finger is his or other somebody else. Finger agnosia is there. Inability to make distinction between right and left. They are all part of the Gerstmann syndrome. Weber syndrome, they can ask this question. Weber syndrome, occlusion of the median and paramedian purported branches of the basilar artery. Basilar artery supplies all these purporting branches supply what? Basilar artery, purporting branches, paramedian. They supply what? Pons. You are able to imagine? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Vertebral arteries, they join. Basilar artery, huh?
Definitely.
Here you have
They're
got midbrain, huh?
communicating it.
Pons. This is, what is this? Medulla. This is
Medulla
a
bone.
basilar artery, and it shows some paramedian branches to the pons only. Ventral pons, it will supply. Hmm. That is so the pons. So it will cause what? Third nerve palsy, ptosis, mydriasis. That is the pupillary dilatation. That is because of parasympathetic fibers, of course. So ipsilateral, it is ipsilateral third nerve palsy with ptosis there. This third nerve palsy will leads to ptosis and pupillary dilatation. Hmm? Ipsilateral and uh, contralateral hemiplegia. Hmm? Weakness of the lower face with weakness of lower face, that is lower upper modern type of human type of facial palsy. Hmm? Because facial nerve comes, oh, it is actually only lower face is involved. Upper face is not involved in this. Huh? So that is because of human type of facial nerve palsy. That is corticospinal tracts. Corticobulbar, they are asking. So contralateral hemiplegia with weakness of lower face. Hmm? Opposite side. So ipsilateral, third nerve, opposite side, hemiplegia. You can remember. Ipsilateral, third nerve palsy, contralateral, hemiplegia with UMN facial palsy. That is Weber syndrome. What is Weber syndrome? Ipsilateral, third nerve with contralateral hemiplegia with UMN seventh nerve palsy. That is Weber syndrome. This one I discussed. Thalamic pain syndrome. What is the site of lesion in a patient with alexia without agraphia? Now this patient cannot read, but he can write. Such a patient is there now. He can't read, but he can write. But where is the lesion? Fusiform gyrus, inferior occipital gyrus, splenium of corpus callosum, pons. Any pons are not concerned with this. Forget about this. If it is a cortical problem, this is the answer. Splenium of corpus callosum. This actually, the corpus callosum connects both the cerebrums. Splenium is a posterior part of corpus callosum. This is splenium. This is genu. Show this. Hold on. The corpus callosum goes something like this. This is splenium. This is genu of corpus callosum, and damage to this corpus callosum can cause alexia, but without agraphia. We'll read about that now. Alexia without agraphia, unable to read but can write. Lesion due to posterior PCA, posterior cerebral artery infarct on the dominant side. Alexia is on the dominant side. Agraphia is on the non-dominant side. That's what I was telling. This is dominant. This is non-dominant. Lesion left visual cortex as well as splenium of the corpus callosum is a damaged part in this. Involved into the splenium disrupt the connection between the intact right visual cortex and left angular gyrus, cortical center for reading. That means left angular gyrus, which is a cortical center of guiding reading, we lose connection between the writing center of the right side. That is, like, disconnection is there. That's the reason they can write, but they can't read. Something. Anton syndrome results due to occlusion of bilateral occlusion of distal ACA, bilateral occlusion of MCA, bilateral occlusion of distal PCA, bilateral occlusion of vertebral artery. What is Anton syndrome? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Guess, man. Guess now. You don't want to guess also. Afraid of guessing now. No negative marking. I told you now. It is a cortical blindness. Yeah. Antoine syndrome is occipital bilateral occipital lobe infarcts. The visual cortex, actually, the primary visual cortex is where?
Hospital.
Yeah, occipital lobe. Yeah. So eyes are the interior most, vision is on the posterior most. That is the funniest part of this evolution. Huh? Because see the occipital lobe is here. Bilateral it should be. Bilateral occlusion of posterior cerebral artery and causes bilateral occipital lobe infarct. Huh? And patient will not be knowing he's got infarct. He has got lost his vision. Huh? That is a part. That is a part of this Anton syndrome. He will have cortical blindness, but he says I can see. But what he'll be seeing, he only knows. Huh? That's why they'll have confabulation. See here, they'll create things which are not happened because they will they deny they can't see and they'll see something and say that it has happened. That's what it is. Huh? Anton syndrome. Confabulation. Huh? And patient denies. He is blind. Denying illness is a anosognosia. That is, he'll deny. He'll not be knowing actually. Huh? Bilateral occipital lobe of visual cortex is involved. That is Anton syndrome. Memory impairment occurs in embolism of posterior cerebral because of damage to what is damage? Hippocampal gyrus, superior temporal gyrus, prefrontal gyrus, angular gyrus. It is hippocampal gyrus. Memory is more concerned with medial temporal lobe and hippocampus. Now let us read about this. Brain circle. I had discussed this. Uh, so this is a lateral surface of the brain. This is the medial surface of the brain. In the lateral surface, if you see this red area, this red thing is what? What is red area? Supplied by what?
Middle cerebral.
Yeah, good. This is supplied by medial cerebral artery. From middle cerebral artery, not medial. Middle cerebral artery. And middle cerebral artery from medial side, only this much it supplies. Temporal lobe, this much. And anterocerebral artery is a major player in the medial aspect of the brain. Anterocerebral artery, middle aspect of the brain. And posterior cerebral artery, it supplies like this. Inferior part and this one. Okay. This one. So this Wernicke's area, Broca's area, they fall with what? Middle cerebral artery. Okay. Now, 45-year-old male presents with hypertension. He has a sudden abnormal flinging movements in the right upper and lower limbs, most likely site of hemorrhage. So what is suspect if he has got a sudden hemorrhage movement on the right upper and lower limbs, both? He has got both upper right side. What is it? Sudden it is. It is hemibalismus actually. It is hemibalismus. And the lesion is here in the subthalamic nucleus. We'll discuss what is chorea, athetosis, hemibalismus, Parkinsonism. These are the abnormal movements. Chorea, lesion is at the caudate nucleus, athetosis, withering movements, that is lentiform nucleus, hemibalismus, it is in the subthalamic nucleus, and of course Parkinsonism, substantia nigra. These two are basal ganglia. This is subthalamus. Substantia nigra, where it is present? Where, man? Midbrain. This is in the midbrain. Hypertensive individual had a sudden headache and become unconscious within few minutes. On regaining consciousness, there was a complete flaccid hemiplegia with no involvement of upper face. Absent deep tendon reflexes, positive Babinski sign. Which one of the following arteries could have ruptured? Now, what is the case first? Let us understand. This is hypertensive. This patient
Yes,
is
sir.
hypertensive. And sudden onset headache is there. Of course, that means patient was conscious before having the problem. Headache is there, na? Otherwise, how can a
True.
patient who is not having conscious will have headache? Headache is there. Headache is a sign of bleed only actually. And become unconscious within minutes. Unconscious. Even subarachnoid hemorrhage can also cause that,
Lover.
but but there is a hemiplegia here. So we'll tend
True, sir.
towards non-subarachnoid bleeds. We'll go inside the brain parenchyma only. On regaining consciousness, there was a complete flaccid hemiplegia with no involvement of upper face. What does it say? The lower face is involved. That is QM and
Upper motor neuroplasm.
seventh nerve palsy. Upper no, it's what it is telling. No involvement of upper face. It's absent tendon reflex. That is neurogenic shock. Huh? Hmm? Later on, they'll develop what? Spasticity.
Positive.
Spasticity. They can develop spasticity. But initially, there is a flaccid hemiplegia with it. Later on, regain. And of course, you can see Babinet's sign, which is a sign of a pyramidal tracts. Which one of the following area arteries are ruptured now? So, which is the commonest site of hypertensive bleeds? The hypertensive bleeds, first is basal ganglia. Second is thalamus. Third is pons. Fourth is cerebellum. Cerebellum. These are the order of frequency. Commonest side of hypertension. I'm talking about hypertensive intracellular bleeds. Basal ganglia is the commonest cause. Next comes thalamus. Next comes pons. Next comes cerebellum. These are frequency wise. So the middle cerebral artery branch, middle straight branch of anterocerebral artery, or lateral straight branch of middle cerebral artery, or posterior lateral branch of posterior cerebral, posterior choroidal branch of posterior cerebral. Which is the answer? The answer is
Middle cerebral.
huh?
Middle cerebral.
Yeah, middle cerebral artery only. Yeah, lateral straight branch of little middle cerebral artery. You tell like this. The first choice. That is a correct answer. Lateral straight branch of middle cerebral artery. Now we'll discuss about hypertensive bleeds. The first most common cause of hypertensive place of hypertensive bleed is what I said, basal ganglia. That's the first common cause. And the arteries, medial and lateral side branches of middle cerebral artery. It's not medial, wrong. It is middle. Middle cerebral artery. It will present with contralateral hemiplegia, paralysis that worsens with flaccid till the patient becomes flaccid or developed decerebrated rigidity. Either of the time, paralysis keep on worsening. Decerebrated rigidity is there. So if it is just rigidity, it is not a pyramidal sign. Where you get just rigidity, extra pyramidal. Decerebral rigidity is different from actual rigidity. These pyramidal signs will present with what? Spasticity. This is decerebral rigidity is different. They develop coma, chain stroke breathing, that is because of uncal herniation, all that. Dilated and fixed ipsilateral pupil they can develop, and of course, this is a terminal part, decerebral rigidity. Now we'll come to thalamic bleed. Look at the way this person is looking down. These patients of thalamic bleed will have what? This is due to perforating branch of PCA, posterior cerebral artery. There is hemisensory loss more than the motor power loss. I told you, thalamus is concerned with the sensory system. Thalamic syndrome can develop. Yeah, I'll tell you. Thalamic syndrome. This patient can develop thalamic syndrome because of thalamus bleed. The eyes are inward deviations, and there is inward. See here, it's more inward. with out, down, inward and down, looking down, looking down. Unequal pupils over there, loss of light reflex, skew deviation. That is, he'll be looking at his tip of the nose. This guy is trying to look at the nose. Vertical gaze palsy. Where you get horizontal gaze palsy? I told you in the last class. Locked in state. You get? I told you in the last class now. Hello? Are you there? Locked in state.
Yes, sir.
Locked in state. Voice is clear now? Voice is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the horizontal gaze palsy is seen in locked in stage. That is a disease at the pons. Here, vertical gaze palsy is disease at the thalamus. These things can be MCQ. You see my previous class videos. You'll get that. Then hypertensive bleed in the pons. Yeah, I came here. See. Plain. But here the gaze palsy and all, they will have different locked in state. Very difficult to check. Basal artery bleed. There will be quadriparesis, deep coma, decelebrated and pinpoint pupil. Just see. Pinpoint oculocephalic reflex is impaired because there is a horizontal gaze palsy is there. Hypercapnia, patient will have hypercapnia because unable to breathe and all that. Hypertension, hyperhidrosis. These are the signs of pons. Sweating, hyperhidrosis, sweating. Hypertensive cerebellar bleeds. The last common bleed of cerebral arteries, both superior, anterior, inferior, posterior cerebral arteries, occipital headache. This is the one thing which you should remember: vomiting. Cerebral bleed patients, they come with the projectile vomiting, very repeated vomiting with headache and stroke. You think of cerebral bleed. A patient who comes vomiting and loss of consciousness, all those things, you should suspect cerebral bleed and investigate, probably with MRI. Posterior structures are better seen with the MRI. One you can get CT, but look at this. And cerebellum is concerned with the ataxia. They can develop cerebellar ataxia. Dizziness, vertigo, paralysis of conjugative gaze. What is conjugative gaze? Inability to move both eyes in a single horizontal and a vertical direction either. See, you cannot move the both eyes. They will go. Gaze palsy is there. Conjugative gaze. Both eyeballs have to move in accordance. That is lost here. Forced deviation of the eye to opposite side. Dysarthria and dysphagia can be this. Patient will have stupor and coma. These patients, if they are operated, that hematoma, if they are evacuated, they have the chance they'll survive. Cerebral bleeds. All of the following neurophysiological deficits are likely to result from right parietal lobe involvement. Results from right parietal lobe involvement. Right parietal lobe involvement, what all problems it will cause, except. That's all the question is. Now, visuospatial defect. Anosognosia, dyscalculia, spatial dysgraphia. So, right parietal lobe is a dominant hemisphere or non-dominant hemisphere? Students, most often it is right.
Non-dominant.
Yeah. So I told you mathematics and language on the dominant side. The answer is here. So right parietal lobe involvement will not cause this. Don't worry about these things. But definitely this is a dominant hemisphere. Mathematics, calculation. Mathematics, language, that is aphasia, logic, these are all there. Whereas visuospatial defects, anosognosia, spatial dysgraphia, these are all signs of parietal, the non-dominant hemisphere. We'll discuss them all. What is anosognosia, visual spatial defect, and spatial dysgraphia? We'll try to understand. Anosognosia is a deficit in self-awareness of condition. You will not know about the disease. Hmm? Hmm? Visuospatial defect is depending on our needs. We must quickly and accurately direct our attention to what is relevant while suppressing what is irrelevant. Hmm? So, see, the explanation would be like you go and try to buy a mobile phone, suppose. Huh? Try to go buy a mobile phone. When you go to buy a mobile phone, you pick up a mobile phone, and from that, and when you pick up, you'll not know the details of it. Hmm? But when you pick up, you'll notice so many things, start learning about it, and immediately understand it is how light it is, and you will even understand it is how good it is, or what are extra qualities without even knowing. You'll start picking up. Huh? These things are possible with the visuospatial problems. If you got a problem with this, you can't pick up them. Hmm? Details, relevant and irrelevant things. Because so much of input is there, visual input is there, the brain has to take up what is relevant to you and what is relevant. That's what it does. That is a visuospatial defect is a concern. If that is a defective, then person cannot understand that. And that is, if the disease in the non-dominant hemisphere, then this one will be there. Or if you go and try to buy a car, you will understand immediately the number of different colors of that same brand, and how, what is the even the minute details you will start remembering. You would have noticed such cars in while you are going in routine life, but when you yourself are trying to buy them, you'll know more about it. That you get it very fast. That is function of parietal lobe. And spatial dysgraphia means letter spacing, letter sizing, and all these things. That is decision. That is a defect here. Hmm? All of the following are features of Millard-Guebler syndrome, except fifth cranial nerve, sixth cranial nerve, seventh cranial nerve, contralateral aplasia. Hmm? The answer is this. Hmm? So, Millard-Guebler syndrome, due to unilateral lesion in the ventral pons. So there's ipsilateral sixth and seventh nerve palsy and contralateral hemiplegia. Okay. This trigeminal nerve, it has got what? Midbrain, pons, and medulla and spinal cord. The big trigeminal nucleus it is. Huh? So trigeminal nucleus is not involved in Millard-Guebler syndrome. There is the ipsilateral 6th and 7th contralateral hemiplegia. Whereas in Weber syndrome, how much? Ipsilateral third nerve, contralateral hemiparesis. UMN 7th nerve. It is LMN 7th nerve here. Millard-Guebler. Remember. Huh? Huh? Terminal palsy and pupillary sparing are seen in all except where you get third nerve palsy with the pupillary sparing. Students, most of you are left. Are you tired? Shall I continue in the next class or shall I finish this? Under 5 questions are there, but. Hello? Students?
The next class.
Continue, sir.
If you don't mind, I'll take in the next class because most of the people are left. What I'm saying.
Next class, sir.
Okay, I'll take next class.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Because these are which try to read them more so that you learn.
Okay, sir.
Because it is a
Thank you.
complex topic, I know.